Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Peter Allen. How's your body language?
Oh. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, you should do.
Sorry.
I said in the intro that you started off as a pub pianist. You said that to somebody in England. It conjures up pictures of lovely sort of oak beam pubs and that sort of thing. Was that the same pubs that you played in?
I guess they were pretty nice. Yeah, they were old Australian pubs, and I think old Australian pubs are really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of act did you do there? Was it sort of request time?
Well, it was before an act. I was just being myself then. Because I was only 9, it wasn't hard, you know.
You did, of course, move from being a pub pianist. Your first sort of professional act was as the Allen Brothers, wasn't it?
Well, I was still being a pub pianist. What happened was, when I used to play in the pubs on Saturday nights and things, and take requests, which is where I learned so many old songs. Then I went to, so I read in the paper that Surfers Paradise needed acts badly. So I took what money I had out of the bank and took a bus to Surfers Paradise. Obviously, I didn't need acts quite that badly because I didn't get a job. But I figured playing in pubs seemed to me a little bit easier than getting a regular job. Mm. So I was sitting around playing in pubs, and Chris Allen had another act at that point, and he had a booking to get on Bandstand in Sydney, and his other partner decided he'd rather go and cut sugarcane than continue in show business. A wise decision, I thought, at the time, yeah. And they needed a partner, so...
But how crucial, well, Bandstand was, of course, quite crucial to your career, but it was crucial to the careers of several other people, too, wasn't it? Because it was quite a stable.
There was a whole family. At that point, it was the beginning of Australian rock and roll. And in those days, you really had to work every place. You couldn't just... If you were on Bandstand, you had to do Bandstand. Plus, you had to do pantos, you had to work in the workers' clubs. You had to really appeal to a pretty wide variety of people, only because that was the only way to make a living. You couldn't just be a rock and roller or an appeal to teenagers. To earn money, you had to really appeal to everyone. Mm-hmm. So I think what happened was that whole first family that used to work 6 o'clock rock and Bandstand got used to working pretty hard and under all different kind of circumstances. And I think that's why Helen Reddy, Olivia, and a lot of other acts were able to survive, just because they were used to working hard, where a lot of other people might have given up.
I mean, in that period, too, I mean, you played pantomime as well, didn't you?
I was in the pantos, yes.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was very weird, because Chris... You didn't ever see Chris and I,
No,
did
I didn't.
Oh, it's a pity, yes. Well, it was a lovely... Yeah, it was a good act, wasn't it? Is there anyone old enough to remember Chris and Peter Allen? And do you remember us? And yeah? It was nice, wasn't it? We were good, yeah. We were great, see? That man said we were great. But we didn't look too much alike. Well, we weren't even brothers. No. I don't know how we turned out to be brothers, but they cast us in Alice in Wonderland as Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And they were supposed to be twins, identical twins, you know. There were Chris and I, you know, standing up there. And I don't know, well, there's a bit of an awful thing happened, because we were doing a show at 10 in the morning and 3 in the morning, and 3 in the afternoon. And as Tweedledum and Tweedledee, we had to wear these leotards. And Chris and I in leotards, well, we didn't know anything about what you're supposed to wear under leotards.
Nor do I.
Well, you're supposed to wear something under leotards,
I see.
you know. And Mary Hardy was in it, and Patsy Ann Noble and Jill Perryman. It was kind of a good cast. And we couldn't figure out, every time we'd come on, mothers were putting their eyes over the little... the children's eyes, putting their hands over their eyes. Until Mary Hardy finally broke in and said, "You look like you got packets of Jaffas down your pants. Please put on jock straps, you know."
It's amazing where you learn the facts of life.
It is, isn't it? Yes.
Now, can I talk to you about the impact that one of my very favourite performers, Judy Garland, had on your career? Because she did have quite a profound effect in more ways than one, didn't she? When did you first meet her, Peter?
I guess we first met her in, I mean, it was in Hong Kong in 1964. And she had just been to Australia, and she was recovering from being in Australia in Hong Kong. It hadn't been a very successful trip.
But that was hardly Australia's fault, was it?
It was, no, but a lot of it was the press at that time, I think.
Really?
They were pretty, Australian press at that time were fairly intense, and I think it really gave her a shock, and she didn't fare very well. I think she fared very well in certain places, but there was a bad concert in Melbourne, and that kind of took over.
Bad because sort of her health at the time?
Well, she didn't do a very good show. She was an hour late and stuff like that. And they weren't used to, in America they're used to, you know, let's go to Judy Garland concert. Oh, we have another, she'll be about 3 hours late tonight. Let's have another drink and, you know, have dessert. You know. But in Australia, they all turned up at 7:30 waiting to see Judy, you know. Kind of, she got on in a bad state at about 8:30, and that was, and the press were a little hard on her.
Mm-hmm.
But that happened every place, you know. And we were the opening act. We used to go out there merrily and sing our opening songs and everything, and then a doctor would come out and say, I'm afraid, Miss Garland, tonight will be, you know. And they'd say, well, let's get the money out of those two that started it, you know. They would attack us and tear us to pieces.
Mm-hmm. What was her state of health at that time, though, Peter? I mean, she was on the way out, wasn't she?
Oh, I don't know. It was in between comebacks. I mean, there were so many comebacks towards the end, and she was always fine at the comebacks. She wasn't well. She was having an operation in Hong Kong, and her traveling companion came to see us and visited her the next day and said, gee, I saw this fabulous act last night at the Hilton. And she kind of said, what were you doing at the Hilton? She had things in her throat, and what were you doing at the Hilton? He said, oh, I was seeing this act. It was so good, she said. Really? I said, yes. He said, oh, well, let me get out all the stuff. She pulled all the stuff out, put a scarf on and a hat on, and came to the show that night.
Extraordinary.
Said, it sounds like more fun than lying here.
Yeah. What do you think of her as a person?
Well, my thing was that I didn't really know too much about her. I mean, I'd seen her in movies and things, but I didn't really listen to Judy Garland records because I was, you know, 18 years old, 19, and I was listening to rock and roll and stuff like that. I wasn't listening to Over the Rainbow. So when she came to the show, I thought, oh, that's nice. Yes, I remember her from movies and things, but I didn't think of her as a huge star. I didn't know too much about the concerts and things. So we just became friends. And when I first saw the first concert, it was at the Palladium in London, about in '65, I think. She did some midnight concerts there. And I came to the concert, I said, look at all these people, isn't it nice that they've turned up for my friend Judy to see Judy at midnight? I thought, isn't this nice that they all came? And, of course, then I saw her work, and I thought, oh, my God, look at what she's doing. But up until then, so it was hard for me to think of her as a superstar because I'd been a friend first.
Of course, she was more than a friend. She became your mother-in-law, didn't she?
Yes, she did, too. Forgot about that.
Until now. But, I mean, that must have been extraordinary for you, not being married to Miss Minnelli, but just the fact of it must have pitchforked you into a different kind of society.
Well, it did, but I didn't know it was that different, you see. Because coming from Australia, I mean, I'd really grown up in a very small town, and I didn't know who all these people were, so I wasn't fazed by them at all. I mean, I said, where are we going to tonight? She'd say, we're off to Noel Coward's, and I'd think, oh, no. God. Then she'd say, oh, now we're off to David Nevins, and we're off out with Margot Fontaine and Rudolph Nureyev and the Beatles. And I kept saying, who are all these people you keep dragging us off to see? You know, I'd just like to go to sleep. I'm so tired. So now that I look back, I think, how could I have slept through all those parties and dinners? I would I used to fall asleep on the table.
Really?
And she'd wake me up to meet Cary Grant. I'd say, hello, I'm sorry. She'd say, he's great talent. And I'd say, she's right, and then go back to sleep.
She enjoyed that socializing, did she?
Well, she would just have done it all her life.
Yes, yes. Did she ever get rebuffed herself because of her enthusiasm for stars?
Did she get rebuffed?
Rebuffed. I remember you told me a story about Bette Davis once with her.
Oh, no, that was Liza.
I was sorry.
Yes, that was Liza. No, Liza, I wasn't impressed by the stars mainly because I didn't know who they were. And it was strange because Liza was very impressed by them, even though they'd always say, oh, Liza, I haven't seen you since I bounced, you know, Jimmy Stewart would say, oh, I used to bounce you on my knee. And she'd say, oh, Jimmy Stewart said he used to bounce me on my knee. Well, I said he probably did, you know. And she said, oh, isn't that wonderful? And I said, I guess it is, you know. I wasn't quite sure who Jimmy Stewart was except from cowboy movies. So I wasn't all that impressed. Liza was incredibly impressed. Of course, now I can barely open my mouth to Olivia, you know. It's like, hello. I'm really impressed now, but I wasn't then.
And what was the Davis thing?
But Betty Davis, I think it's a stock answer because I've heard it a few times. If you go up and say to Betty Davis, hello, like Liza went up and said, hello, I'm Miss Davis. I'm Liza Minnelli. And Betty always just looks around and goes, of course you are. And then just turns back. Oh.
Terrible.
She's done it to a lot of people, I think.
Right. Now, in fact, your career as a songwriter took off, did it not, when you split with Miss Minnelli?
Well, I split with Miss Minnelli, and...
we both sound like tiny
yes.
don't we? It's great.
I split with Liza and Chris, and I just decided I didn't want to, spend my waning years in a tuxedo singing The Impossible Dream. So, see, it had never occurred to me that I was, since I'd been doing this since I was 14, it never occurred to me that I was younger than the Beatles, And all of a sudden I thought, I started to hear music that I liked, and I thought, well, maybe I could do that instead of really being buried like in the Las Vegas graveyard at that point.
What was the song that you wrote that sort of set you off on the road?
Well, I wrote a few, but I guess the first successful one was I Honestly Love You, because it was kind of an accident. I wrote it, and someone played it for Olivia in London, and she didn't know that I'd written it, and I didn't know she'd recorded it. And I went off for the summer to live in the woods or something. I was at that point. And I came back one day and I said, whatever happened to that song of Olivia's? They said, well, she put it out as a single. And I said, oh, the poor thing. God, must have killed her career. They said, it's #1. I couldn't believe it.
You also, did you not, at one time, when you were on the way up with somebody I've interviewed recently in London, the outrageous Miss Bette Midler?
Oh, did you like her?
Oh, I adored her.
Yeah,
she's extraordinary. And
yeah.
Talk about body language working there. That's unbelievable. I mean,
there's a lot to work with.
A lot to work with.
Really?
It pops out all over, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
But I mean, but was she always that outrageous? Because I wanted to ask you that.
Well, when I started to write songs, there was only a couple of places where you could go because there were not really any places set up. Cabarets hadn't re-emerged in New York, and so there's a place called Improvisation, which is still there, where people can go and try out material. So I used to go there and sing, and there's this crazy girl came in one night, and she started to bang the tables, and I thought, oh, listen to this girl, isn't she? Listen to this. And I mean, she came over and was banging my table, and I said, please stop this, I'm the next act, and you're making me so nervous. And she said, oh, sorry, and went on to bang someone else's table while she was singing, And then she started singing at the Continental Baths, and she made it a place to be. And then I went and sang, and then we both decided we'd team up, so we went to Los Angeles together to, and I was the opening act for her in Los Angeles on her first time there. And Barry Manilow was her pianist, and Melissa Manchester was one of the harlots.
Yeah, right. Now, you broke away from this being this sort of sensitive songwriter image by cavorting and talking about prancing around on stage and even stripping as well. Quite an outrageous sort of element you introduced into your act. How did you start that? Why?
Well, when I stopped being an Allen brother and I decided I wanted nothing to do with all that showbiz stuff, I thought I'd just be the sensitive singer-songwriter. Well, I was the sensitive singer-songwriter, and I was even boring myself. I was so sensitive, and I could see the audience falling asleep. And meanwhile, everyone else had been sick of being sensitive songwriters, so they were getting up and dancing and all that, and I would go and see them and I'd think, these people are not very good at this, And then I thought, you've been doing it since you were 14, and the one thing you know how to do is to get up and be stupid on stage, so why not be a little bit stupid along with the sensitive ballads? So I'd do one sensitive ballad, and then I'd get up and be stupid for one other song, and people just couldn't figure out whether I was supposed to be sensitive or whether I was supposed to take off my clothes and be stupid. So then I thought, well, that's kind of a good act. Always keep them not knowing quite what's going on. And it went to that kind of a balance, and I think it's still that, because I like to keep an audience not quite knowing what I'm going to do next.
Well, I think that's fair to. I think unpredictable is something that could be said about you on stage. But let's briefly talk about the way you write songs. I mean, what's the inspiration? You wrote a song called I Go to Rio, right, which is a big hit.
Yeah.
Was that inspired by being in Rio?
No, I'd never been there.
Oh, I see. That's what I wondered.
No, it was so weird because I had this melody, and I was introduced to a girl, Adrienne Anderson, who also writes with Barry Manilow. It's very incestuous, all the people who write together. You write with everyone writes with everyone. And I had this melody, and normally I would have put a very complex, I'd love to love you if I could leave my wife, but I'm involved with someone. And she said, you can't write another one to that happy melody. All your songs are like that. Why don't you write, when my baby smiles at me, I go to... And I said, where? So we kind of went, heaven. I said, no, not heaven. And we couldn't think of any place to go, and all of a sudden I said, just Rio. She said, Rio? And I said, De Janeiro? I said, look, it rhymes. Let's not be... We haven't found any place else to go. We have a rhyme, and maybe someone will hear it and invite us there. So that's how we wrote I Go to Rio.
Yeah, so much for inspiration settling on your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever actually go there in the end?
Well, yes, they became a big hit. It's like White Christmas down there. Yes, every carnival they drag out I Go to Rio, and off I go again.
How basically, though, did you come to the idea for a song? I mean, do you have a working pattern, or did just a phrase come in your mind, and then you...
Well, it's funny, like, I've been writing, for some strange reason, the last few songs I've written have been all snapped up by black girls. I think it's a bit odd. I'm writing with this guy who's from Detroit, but Polish. So, I mean, there's this Australian and this Polish boy from Detroit, and everything we write, we have black girls fighting for. I mean, Dionne Warwick is trying to beat up pedal. I must have that song, you know. So all of a sudden, I'm the new soul writer. God knows how I write at this. And we started writing, and he said, well, let's write a song about when you go to the supermarket and you hear that noise that goes ding, 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 the supermarket. Well, I was looking at him and thinking, this is not going to be a very successful collaboration at all. He said, you know that sound? Go ding, 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 ding at the supermarket. And I said, look, I'm sorry, but I don't go shopping. I'm sorry. And he said, you're right, that's a much better title. I said, what? I don't go shopping. I said, oh. So I said, I don't go shopping for love? And he said, yes, I don't go shopping for love. So we wrote I Don't Go Shopping for Love for about 5 minutes, and it's a huge hit now, if you can believe that.
That's amazing, isn't it?
For Patti LaBelle, yeah.
Now, what about the song you're going to do now?
This one's called I Still Call Australia Home, which, I mean, I figured that everyone's always writes a song about, I mean, I left my heart in San Francisco, and you can, as long as you mention an American city, Australians like it, and I thought there hasn't really been one about, except Sydney, My Sydney, that the other channel uses at the end of the night, you know. And it's funny, Australians are a little bit weird about when you use Australia in a song, I've found. And I just wanted to write one that was like one of those really big, sentimental, I left my heart in San Francisco, but just mean it about Australia. Because it's the way I feel when I come back.
You do?
I think a lot of people are feeling that way, yeah.
You feel very Australian still, do you, in spite of the fact of...
In spite of the fact of what?
Of being, of working and living.
Sure, yeah.
All right, then, sir. Your piano, Mr. Tommy Tico, waits you over there.
Oh, they're good, aren't they, too? Tommy's
marvelous,
good,
yes,
isn't he?
So let me down then singing a song he wrote called I Still Call Australia Home. Miss Vida.